After hours of fixing the shoreline in episode 1, the result came out perfectly. The map now looks much better and reflects the real waterfront far more accurately. Now it's time to build the river water sources. Once again, this task requires working on both the world map and the playable map. After experimenting with the in-game water tool, and surprisingly, placing water sources in each world behaves very differently. The tool itself, even after updates from the developers, remain highly unpredictable. The uncertainty in configuring water source parameters is even greater on the world map, unlike the playable area where behavior is slightly more manageable. As you'll see shortly, even a tiny adjustment to the radius or height can instantly turn a dry riverbed into a flood. Another thing I noticed is that water sources placed on the world map can actually pass underneath the playable area and emerge from the opposite direction. This forces you to create additional water sources inside the playable area to ensure continuous flow. The overlay you see was generated using an external tool that predicts rainwater flow from mountain peaks down to the sea. It helps identify seasonal water paths, shown here in yellow, and permanent river courses, shown in red. To add a water source, click the plus water drop icon. Place the source in the correct location, but be careful. Always do this while the game is paused, or you may flood your map. Name your river. For now, I'll use temporary names, and later I'll properly identify each river and rename them accordingly. Lebanon is known for its many small rivers descending from the western mountain range into the Mediterranean. Most of the moisture evaporated from the Mediterranean eventually hits the western mountain range, where it condenses and falls as rain. Beirut name itself is believed to be derived from a word meaning wells, due to the region's abundant rainfall. It's best to reduce the water source parameters to their minimum value first, then press play and observe the behavior. Since this source is placed on a cliff, a height value of 10 should be more than enough. But remember, this tool can behave unpredictably. The best approach is to gradually increase the radius until you achieve the desired flow. Sometimes that still doesn't work, and you'll need to slightly increase the height or move the source location a little. In the water tool options, the button on the left highlights the water source name on the map. The button on the right enables simulate backdrop water. For water sources placed on the world map, this option must be enabled for them to function properly. At a value of 11, the source finally starts working. You can see how slowly the water moves, even though the game speed is set to very fast. "12 looks better." Increase the water simulation speed to maximum so you don't have to wait forever for the flow to stabilize. There is also a pollution parameter available. I'll keep that at 0. If realism eventually introduces pollution into these rivers, I'd rather let the city environment create that naturally during gameplay rather than adding it artificially in the editor. The map will begin in a pre-urban state, for gameplay reasons of course. That's actually why I named this map Beirut Unwritten. And yes, the Phoenicians invented the alphabet. Some urban infrastructure will still be included since the game requires it, such as highway outside connections and high voltage power lines. The real fun begins once gameplay starts. Since Beirut will begin as green open land, you can choose to recreate the real city as faithfully as possible, improve upon it, or build an entirely utopian metropolis from scratch. As you saw, simply changing the location of the water source dramatically altered its behavior. This first river is relatively simple, since it depends on a single water source. The others are far more complex, relying on multiple interconnected sources. Those require much more balancing to make the entire system work properly. Seven seems to cut the flow. Let's see if 8 is the sweet spot. Eight isn't enough for the river to reach the sea. 9 should do it. Even with water simulation speed set at maximum, it still takes time for that additional flow to reach this point. That's it. Perfect. Enjoy the music. Now let me share the river names included in this map. Some rivers are incomplete due to the map boundary limitations. In Lebanon, smaller rivers are sometimes referred to as wadi. There are 20 rivers in total. Here we go. Al-Fidar River. This is actually the river featured in this tutorial. Ibrahim River. Ghazir River. El Mleh River. Juni River. El Kalb River. Antillas River. El Mot River. الدورة River. Beirut River. الغدير River. Shamoon River. Aramoon River. Abu Damma River. Abu Damma roughly means the one with tears in his eye. Don't ask me. El Damour River. Barja River. Zaini River. Rmaili River. الأولي River. الليطاني River. The last river took a tremendous amount of time to complete. Not only is it located entirely within the unpredictable world map, but it also descends toward the sea much more gradually, requiring multiple water spawners to make it work correctly. Now moving to a completely different topic, map tiles. By default, the map is divided into 529 equal tiles, as you can see here. These are the tiles you purchase during gameplay to expand your city. But surprise, surprise, they don't actually have to remain 529 tiles, nor do they have to stay square at all. I had the idea of reshaping these purchasable tiles to match the real administrative boundaries of Lebanon. For Beirut city specifically, I'll use smaller subdivisions, since this is the most important urban area and requires finer detail. The first step is deleting the existing inner grid tiles. I'm keeping the outer border tiles for now, since redrawing the entire map edge would be extremely difficult. Those edge tiles will be reshaped later. Now that the central tiles are gone, I'll use an overlay for Lebanon's administrative subdivisions. For sea tiles, I'll project the lines outward based on the direction of the adjacent land boundaries. I'm pretty sure no one gets this right on the first try. This tool takes a lot of practice. The first tiles I'll work on are Ras Beirut and the sea tile directly facing it. I also need to create base anchor points for the two adjacent tiles to the right. Jamia, which in Arabic means university, and its corresponding sea tile. This is necessary because to draw the border of one tile, you first need the boundary points of the neighboring tile.